Okay, so today we're doing the color wheel, and we're doing it in oil pastels. And we already learned about this, and we're kind of excited because we learned how to blend. We learned that this is not a tool to use with oil pastels. Big other thing to know, this little guy here will destroy your oil pastels. This black oil pastel is out to ruin you. We're gonna need paper. And we're gonna need that paper. We're gonna grab it from our today's assignment drawer. We're gonna need a clean paper towel, and we're gonna need a dirty, nasty pencil. And I would just hope that it's a beautiful #2 pencil. It's not marked #2, but it's a #2 pencil. So we are going to begin by starting our basic shape of our color wheel. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss a little triangle in here. And it's gonna be like this little triangle right here. And basically we're gonna start with our primary colors. Those are the colors that you cannot mix anything else to make. So I can't just make a yellow. Like this, my yellow and my blue can make a green, but I can't do anything to make a yellow. I wanna figure out what kind of shape that I wanna put in there. So because we just ended with Valentine's Day, I'm gonna just sketch in very lightly sketch in a little heart there and start with that pretty big because they're my primary colors. They're like our most important colors. We need those to make other colors. I'm gonna go ahead and sketch those in. And when I said this was a nasty pencil, boy, I was not kidding. This is a really gross pencil. So I've got my little hearts in there, and that's my basic shapes of my primary colors. Now my secondary colors are the ones that are in between there. And so like if I look at my yellow and my blue, it makes green. My yellow and my red make orange, and red and blue make violet, or you know it as purple. So everybody has their favorite color. So basically what I'm gonna do is I wanna sketch those in, but before I do that, I wanna just get a little bit of a circle. I got my #2 pencil, so I'm able to sketch a little bit, and right in the middle, right in those triangle points, I'm gonna do a little circle. So go ahead and do that while I sharpen this pencil. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna go ahead now, and right in the middle of those little spots there is where I'm gonna put those secondary colors. I can look at my color wheel. This is on Classroom in the feed if you wanted to just reference this, and it helps a little bit so you know that your green is gonna be in the middle, and I'm gonna make that a smaller heart. And then over here, I'm gonna have my orange. And again, it's gonna be a smaller heart. And right here is my violet, or as you know it, is purple. And I'm gonna toss that in. So I've got my little shapes in between. So then right here is gonna be in between my primary color and my secondary color is a tertiary color. And I'm gonna make those about the same size, because I think tertiary colors are just as important as a secondary color because they are like a secondary color. So I've got a little heart there, little heart here. Now your shapes that you're doing, they could be a spade, or they could be a little blob, or they could be Charmander that's repeated. It could be absolutely anything. I want you to try to be really creative with whatever your shapes are. I'm not being too creative. I'm just taking the holiday that just passed and kind of expounding on it. There is a holiday that's coming up, but I think it's gonna, if some people will have a hard time with a shamrock that is not a certain color. I'm not about holidays, but I'm about, I think it's a cute shape. So there we go. So these are tertiary colors, and your tertiary color is that color in between the primary and the secondary. So this would be like a yellow green. And this one right here would be like a blue green. So those are actually, again, some of my favorite colors. Now, I'm gonna go ahead, just since you saw this, I'm gonna go ahead and erase this now. And the reason I'm erasing it is I want to erase it where I just see them a little bit, but I don't want to see my pencil lines when I'm through my colors. Now my yellow I'm erasing quite a bit because yellow's so light that I'll really see through it. So I'm going to erase that, and then instead of dusting that onto my table, I'm going to lift it off, shake it, maybe pat it against the table, and maybe get just the last of it. But that way I don't have bumps underneath my paper where all those little pieces of eraser are. So I'm going to start with my yellow. I always look at my oil pastel before I start coloring with it and make sure that it's clean, and just take my clean paper towel and wipe it off. So I'm going to start by, and I use a chunk of paper of colored. I love the chunks because I can go sideways on them. I put them in where I just shade them first, and then I want to go ahead and color. So I want the edges to be nice and perfect. So I want to get those edges really tidy, and I want to press hard enough, and that's why you don't want to worry if your oil pastel breaks. It means you're doing the right thing. You're pressing hard enough where you're coloring it in. Now, when I said that the black colored pencil is not your friend, I got a little bit of black somewhere on here that's showing up on my yellow. Once you've picked up a black, it seems like it's everywhere. It's on your clothes, it's in your hair, it's on your friends. It's just terrible. Now, chunks of oil pastel might come up. Whatever you do, don't wipe that, or it's going to create a streak across your paper. I'm going to go ahead and grab my blue. This is the one that's a true blue. They might have the name on it, but I'm too blind to see it, but it's in true blue. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can look back online and see where I have things, and this is my great reference. So I'm going to pop back onto online and just look at that. I'm going over those. Really look at the heart that I just did at the top. Some of these, it's nice, like if you do different characters, you don't have to have them all look the same, which is super nice. One time I had somebody do, and I say Charizard, is they all did like fire. These were fire Pokemon, and these were like, it took me, like I was like, what? Had no clue what was happening until the kid explained it, and then all of a sudden I really wanted to start like watching Pokemon, because I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. So yeah, they had each one represent a certain element, which apparently is a thing. So yeah. So I'm going to color this in. I want to really make sure that I don't see any of those white areas again. So I'm coloring and I'm not shading. So you want to really be aware that you are coloring and not shading. So now I'm going to again look at my reference picture, and I see that I am now doing a red. Oops. And so I'm going over here and doing the red, and I'm going to kind of tidy up that. I'll kind of look and see if this looks pretty symmetrical, as far as is it the same size as that little heart over here. And I'm going to go ahead and color it in. I don't really care if I see lines, because eventually I'm coloring this completely. So, and again, I'm not going to see any of the lines, and that's what's so wonderful about oil pastels. Those edges are really what makes the difference between a good oil pastel and a bad one, as far as when you do a drawing and you don't get your edges really tidy on your oil pastel, they don't look as good. So let's work on really making sure that there's a crisp, tidy edge, like this one is not. So you kind of want to find a nice straighter edge on your oil pastel. Sometimes I color in one side and then color on another side when I'm coloring in, and then that created a little point. So I'm just going to make sure I've created a little point on my oil pastel, and let's get that in. So I've got, those are my primary colors. Now I'm going to move to secondary colors, and I'm going to use my set for that. Our tertiary colors, we're going to actually have to do what we learned about yesterday and do some mixing. But right now, this one here, it actually says yellow green on it, for those of you who can read these tiny little letters. And this one here says green. So this one's almost pretty much done for you, but we don't have it done for us anywhere else. So this one I can go ahead and use that green, and it's a true green for my smaller heart here in my secondary colors. And I always like to get those all filled in. One thing I haven't done is really checked and just shown you. I like to check, I just do it naturally where I go, okay, is this a clean oil pastel? And so that's something you're gonna wanna do, especially if you're in 5th period, or a 5th period yesterday did not clean the oil pastels for the next person, so you wanna check that. So make sure that you're getting that middle one between the two primary colors. I'm gonna go ahead and do orange here because I know that orange is in between yellow and red. So I'm just gonna do that and get that one in and then color that one in. And then I want to kind of have fun with that. And just kind of tidy it up. Of course, I'd spend a little bit more time really making this look fabulous, but we're just gonna get this done so you can see it. This one here, the violet in here, the name on it, actually, they actually have, I think they might have the word violet on there, but it's really difficult to see. It's the closest we have to that. And again, a lot of you guys are thinking in terms of purple. It really does have a strong feeling for me of like a blue. I personally think that it needs to have a tiny bit more red in it. So sometimes I like to add a little bit more. I don't love the red. I just want it to be really like that purple. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the light color to it. And then I'm gonna go back over it, and it's this lovely little pink, and I'm gonna go back over it with blue. So, and then it looks a little bit more purpley. That's just me. If you don't wanna do that, that's entirely up to you. So there I go. So I have my primary colors and my secondary colors. So for my tertiary colors, like I said, you already have a yellow green. So this one is done for you, where you can just put that little guy in and toss it in right there. Hopefully your shapes are way more interesting than mine. I don't really want them to be big circles, or I don't want them to be anything really, like, in fact, this is kind of a little bit on the boring side. I'm not gonna lie, hearts are a little bit on the boring side. So I've got a little heart here. I gotta make sure that I filled it in enough where I don't see any of the white area. This one right here, I am gonna go and grab that original blue, and I want to, since it's darker, I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to shade it. So remember, we shade a little bit and then we color. This is going to be one of those back and forth things. So I'm going to shade this in, maybe make it a slightly bigger heart because I want it to really kind of mesh with those other hearts. And then I want to go over it with the green because this one here is going to be a blue-green. So I've gone over it with the green. I want to make those edges really tidy. Point that a little bit down at the bottom, and I want to go back over it with the blue. If you wanted to grab some paper out of the little paper drawer, just that it's the small pieces of paper, to kind of try it first, I highly recommend it, to kind of go, how am I going to make that blue-green tertiary color? So you're going to do the rest of your color wheel just like that. What I recommend, if you're done early, I would suggest that you would maybe play with creating like a sphere like we did with our pencil drawing, but make it really nice and big. Or you could even try to kind of experiment with fruit, apples, oranges, something like that, just because it'll be kind of fun to play a little bit with some of the oil pastels and see what you can do. It's interesting that as you are working with oil pastels, you will love them or hate them, but most people end up kind of liking them. So my big tips for today are this. Stay away from the black oil pastel. Make sure that you are grabbing your clean paper towel and cleaning up between the oil pastels. And then really do take your time and make sure that all the white is gone. I'm not seeing the paper underneath. And then notice I'm going back and forth when I'm using my oil pastels. I'm going back and forth and playing with color that way, where if you're not going back and forth, you're really losing an opportunity to really get those cool colors. Okay, thank you so much, and I will see you guys on Monday.